I guess you know what time it is. Yeah, I know, because it's about that time for the Toni G. Campbell podcast.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Toni on Toni G. Campbell, the podcast. This is the show for my Gen X warriors, where we talk about our challenges and victories. And on this episode, we will discuss the challenges that educators have on a daily basis and the challenges of starting your own business. Tell me, teachers, do you wish you had a platform to let everyone know about the challenges that you have as an educator? Is there anything that you would like parents and school administration to know to help you better do your job? Well, on today's show, I have an awesome longtime educator who is going to dive deep into a delicious discussion about the challenges of teaching, as well as branching out and starting her own business. Right after a word from our sponsor, I will come back with my co-host for today, Vickie Crockett. Stay tuned.
1, 2, 1, 2, and I say this is Ty Controller, and I'm here to talk about DipSquare. DipSquare is an online shop that specializes in unique graphic t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, and other apparel. They also offer services like personalized mugs and shoes. Did I just say shoes? Yeah, you can get sneakers with your picture on them at DipSquare. They also have tote bags and other items. Right now, you can save on t-shirts every day by using the discount code I Love Tees. That's I Love TEEZ. You get 14% off because every day is Valentine's Day at DipSquare. So check them out online at dipsquare.com. Dipsquare.com. I guess you know what time it is. Yeah, I know, because it's about that time for the Toni G. Campbell podcast.
Welcome back. Now, today we are talking about the challenges of educators, what they have to do on a daily basis, and the challenges of starting your own business. My co-host today is Vickie Crockett. Hello, Vickie. How are you?
Hi, Toni. I'm doing well today.
And so let's talk. Now, I've known you for about 10 years, but tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am an educator of 21 years, primarily focusing on secondary education. So that would be middle school and high school students. I also work as a teen leadership mentor. Part of my passion is empowering young people to move beyond their current realities and to explore all of the potential that they personally possess in the broad world in which we live. And recently, I launched my own educational consulting firm. We are edging toward year 3 now of Teach Educational Consulting, where we focus on methods to help transform education, empower our students and teachers, advance learning, create innovative curriculum, and heighten success for all students as we move into the 21st century. So I'm excited about having the opportunity to share because it's been a great adventure.
Well, awesome. It sounds like you are on the move, girl. Now, tell me, growing up, was it your career's goal to become an educator?
Not at all. I loved going to school. I definitely would have been what most people would describe as a nerd or a bookworm. I enjoyed the learning process. I looked for opportunities to pursue it. It was something that my parents encouraged and insisted upon, actually. But truthfully, I never perceived teaching as a career that yielded much respect, and certainly not a lot of financial advancement, which is what my 18-year-old self was looking for more than anything else. So my first career was actually in the legal field. I was planning to be an attorney. I was going to be one of those high-powered individuals from LA Law. So I'm dating myself because I don't know how many people in your audience will even remember that show.
Hey,
but that
this
was
is
my
for
goal.
our generation. So yes, they will remember.
Okay, excellent. But no, teaching was not something that I had a desire to pursue professionally. It was something I enjoyed personally, but not something I saw myself doing as a career.
So how did you get into it for 21 years?
Well, what I learned after working in law for 7 years is that it is an extremely challenging pathway. And I found myself involved in a lot of actions that were dealing with the negative aspects of humanity. So I was in a general practice law firm. Much of what we did focused on criminal law. And of course, any person who is accused has a right to legal representation. So I was an advocate for that, naturally. However, what I found is that I rapidly was burning out on just that constant grind of negativity. So many of the individuals that we met were coming to us with different personal life challenges that led to some very poor challenges down the road. And I just felt that I was spending every day of my life focused on the horrible things about humanity and very little time focusing on the positive. And truthfully, I was burned out. And then the icing on the cake, I had the wonderful opportunity to recognize just how unscrupulous people can be because I was fired from my firm without prior notification.
What?
Yes, I had to go through a long, arduous legal situation where I had to be my own representative. And after going through that process, I think I just understood that God had a different pathway for me. And I was floundering, honestly, trying to decide what I was going to do next. And my mentor at the time recommended substitute teaching just because it would give me the flexibility to pursue other options while I was making the career transition. And I was hired as a long-term sub in a new middle school that had just opened in the town where I was teaching. And it was love at first sight. Like literally, I walked into the classroom day 2. I felt like the gates of heaven had opened. And I was wondering why no one had told me at 18 that this was what I needed to be doing with the rest of my life.
Because you wouldn't have listened.
That's probably true. You've known me for 10 years. So true confessions, I would not have listened. But I fell in love. And 21 and a half years later, I am still in love. So this is my calling. I pursue it with everything that I have in me. And my hope and my prayer is that I'm touching and blessing lives in positive ways.
Wow. And that's amazing that you can find your calling so early in life, even though, you spent 7 years basically running after that paycheck. And I tell people all the time, you have to find out what you love and make that your journey versus your journey, unless you love money. And then there comes that Bible verse, the love of money is not the way to go, even though I know that's not how it goes, but you know what I mean? Everybody gets the picture.
Right.
So, okay, with the challenges of law and dealing with those type of people, and then you go into middle school. Now, tell us some of the challenges that you experienced dealing with middle school children.
Let me share, first of all, for any parent who is listening to this podcast who has a pre-adolescent or adolescent child, and you are wondering where your baby went and who this possessed individual is who has taken over your beautiful, wonderful, fabulous baby. There are one of the biggest adjustments dealing with middle school students is that research now tells us that on a scientific level, they are to a certain degree legitimately mentally unstable. Wow. And what I mean is, during puberty, their brains are growing at a rapid rate. And in order for thought and action to take place in our brains, we have all of these veins called dendrites that are connected to each other. And information is transmitted along those different eddies. Think of 285. When their brain begins to grow, however, those connectors are pulled apart because the brain is expanding. So now, instead of the thoughts flowing smoothly, they literally have to jump from one nerve ending to the next.
Really?
And oh, yes, ma'am. And that disconnect, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. So if there are medical professionals out there, please understand that this is the teacher version. All right. Please do not understand. I am not a neurosurgeon. I'm telling everyone that right now. But the idea is that they legitimately, in some instances, are having a lapse between thoughts and actions. And a lot of that erratic behavior that we see for them is because they are going through this physiological change. So the greatest adventure with middle school students is learning how to redirect, realign, and motivate them to apply the energy that they have and to control some of those impulses that they're experiencing in more positive ways. And once you can do that, not that it becomes perfect, no such child or person exists, but then you really get to experience the joy that comes from working with an adolescent child. And there really are joys attached to it.
Okay. So with the middle school age child going through all of this, what can you ask of the parents? What can they do to help you do your job better as an educator? You know, for all educators out there who may be struggling during the school day with trying to get the children realigned and having to deal with parents who may not understand what the child is actually going through.
Precisely. One of the greatest benefits and support requests that we can make from home is to help fill some of those gaps that the children are not yet mastering on their own. And one of the biggest is organization. So I cannot begin to tell you the number of times that I have had students who have come to class and said, I lost, I don't have, I forgot, I don't remember. And of course, we recognize that some of that is just standard child behavior, not necessarily being in a place where they are going to own or take responsibility for their choices. But a great deal of it, honestly, is because they frequently do not know how to organize themselves. So helping your child to put together a binder or some other method of organizing all their work would be a huge blessing for teachers. Because then if I get into the practice of bringing this particular item to class with me every day, if the things for that class are in this one place every day, all the time, they begin to develop automatic systems and patterns that make it easier for their teachers to then interact with them. Because classroom instruction becomes extremely challenging when you're dealing with the barrage of, can I go to my locker to get this? I think I left this in my other classroom. I'm not sure if I left it at home. And less learning happens if we're doing more time managing organization. So organizational support is a massive aid to teachers because it at least increases the likelihood that we're going to be able to deliver the learning we need to deliver and that the students are going to be able to retain it because they have one set place where they are keeping that information. Another big request is connected to those systems and routines. As much as possible, if there are patterns or structures that are established at home, the students internalize patterns and structures. And so then it becomes easier for them to master those expectations in the classroom. And it becomes automatic. And it's something that we have to teach them. I think sometimes we forget that behaviors have to be taught the same way content has to be taught. But that type of support from home exponentially increases the likelihood that your child is going to benefit from the learning environment.
I agree, because right now I have a kindergartner going to school, and we actually have, their teacher told us to buy one book, one big binder, and that's where everything that child needs flows through that binder. It's either homework, whether we have to send money in for the classroom, even his behavior chart every single day is in that one binder. So, it helps us as parents to get trained at an early age. So parents, we need you to continue that. Once they started in kindergarten, you have to work it all the way through elementary school. So by the time they get to middle school, hopefully they can grasp it on their own. And so tell me, Vickie, what do you need from school administration to help better do your job as an educator?
See, now you're about to get me in trouble. I'm so happy that right now, being an entrepreneur makes me a little more free with being able to share information on that level, because it can be a bit of a Pandora's box, if you will. But I would have to say, after spending 19 of these 21 and a half years in the classroom, because of course, being an entrepreneur now, my life looks different. The greatest benefit that I have ever had from any administrator is to have this particular individual empower their teachers, trust their teachers, and partner with their teachers. And so what that looks like is recognizing that principals have district level mandates. We understand this. Mm-hmm. There are expectations and there are requirements that are placed on principals that teachers are not directly responsible for. However, administrators have to remember that in some way, there is still that indirect tie. And while administrators ideally are going to be adept at the ability to organize and structure a school, the teachers are the ones who are touching the students every day. And so the ideas that teachers present in an administrative setting, whether it be a faculty meeting, a professional development training, some district-wide conference, we need to be heard. Over and over again, I have had conversations with current educators, former educators, retired educators, and so often you hear the same litany. I didn't feel that I was valued. I didn't feel like my voice was heard. No one was willing to listen to what we had to say or our questions or our concerns. And that has a deadening effect, because if you consistently communicate to a person that what they have to offer has no value, they then begin to separate themselves from that particular situation. You stop getting the best from your teachers. You stop getting the feedback, because now the assumption is no matter what I do or say, nothing is going to change. And so that would be the biggest gift any administrator could give to his or her teachers. Hear them and then make a joint collaborative effort to consider the value in what they are saying and discuss how that could potentially be implemented. You might not be able to change everything, but small adjustments are going to let your teachers know that you hear and honor what they do. And that's going to increase what they are willing to give as educators, because we know that some don't necessarily have the passion for what they do, but I'm still a firm believer that the vast majority of teachers are teaching because they have a passion for what they do and they have a passion for students. So you have to harness that, and you have to let them know that you respect what they bring to the table, because that is when schools begin to change. And that's when students really get the full benefit of their learning environment.
Yes, and that's when parents really love and appreciate their teachers, because they know that, if the teacher's there for the children and because they love their job, then I know my child is going to have a better experience coming out of that whole situation. And I'm hoping that this conversation will help some other teachers out there, who cannot speak up to administration and say, this is what I need, because they're trying to hold on to their jobs. So educators and all leaders out there, I hope you're hearing how you need to value your people in order for you to get the best out of them.
Right.
Now, this has been an awesome conversation. Yes.
Well, this is my passion. I could do this for hours hours and days and weeks. And I know there have been some times when you all have had to listen to me on my soapbox. So, I could talk about this forever and a day.
Yes. And I know that your passion has also taken you overseas to teach English to other countries. Can you speak a little bit on that?
I would love to. What I learned, especially after transitioning into an independent business setting, is the desire for knowledge, learning, and education is something that has taken on a global push, if you will. There is an expanding fervor across countries to be able to gain additional knowledge and education. As we all know, we're in the 21st century. It is the digitized age. The highest commodity being traded right now is information. And after freeing up my time to be able to look at some other opportunities and options, a door opened for me through my ministry to be able to go and share educationally, first in China, which was a huge departure for me. Travel had always been a passion of mine. As part of my teen leadership programming, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that later, I had been able to expose groups of students to learning opportunities in Europe, but I had never had the opportunity to visit the Asian continent. So I spent 3.5 months in Northeast China, working with teachers and students there in the delivery of English. And I can tell you that one of the most refreshing things for me, because this was about year 17 or 18 for me in the classroom at that point, was the thirst for knowledge that they had and just this overwhelming passion. I had an afternoon class, and as a teacher, I make it a habit to try to arrive at least 15 minutes early in any instructional setting, just so that I can be mentally prepared. Mm-hmm. And it became an amusing situation because I showed up early the first day. My students arrived. They saw I was there. So the next afternoon, they showed up even earlier. And I wasn't realizing what was happening. And so I thought, okay, I need to be there a little bit earlier. I understand that this is a culture where structure and order is highly prized. I want to be a great teacher. Let me get there earlier. Girl, the earlier I arrived, the next day they were there ahead of me. And finally, the monitor at the school explained to me, teacher, it is a sign of respect. They don't want you to have to wait for them. This is why they come early. So I had to stop because unconsciously trying to be a good teacher for them, these students were sometimes skipping their lunch because they didn't want me to have to be in the classroom waiting for them.
Oh, no. They couldn't just explain to them that, just come on time. She needs a moment to herself.
Well, but that was one of the differences. That's a foundational difference between Western ideology and Eastern ideology. In the West, we are very individualized. And so we say those sorts of things. Your teacher has an individual need to be alone. This is why she comes early. But in most traditional Eastern cultures, they have more of a collective experience. And so instead of thinking about the individual, they are thinking about the whole. And they think about others before they think about themselves. So for them, their default was not, my teacher is arriving too early and this is inconvenient for me, but they looked at it through the lens of, my teacher is trying to be the very best educator possible. I want to be an even better student for her, so I don't want her to wait for me. I will come and wait for her because I value what she is giving me. It's a different mindset.
That is amazing. We might need to get them to teach our children some of those values, or even teach us adults some of those values,
It was so refreshing. It really was, because I was starting to feel a lot of that stress and tension. And so to have the opportunity to exist in that type of reality, it was a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed it so much. It was a gift to me because it really helped to reignite an energy that I was losing at the time.
Oh, wow. And I mean, I would hope that, any educator out there would take the opportunity, if they have the chance, to, visit a different country and experience different ways that everyone handles education. And maybe they'll get that same, jolt of renewing of how they want to teach once they return here to America. Oh, my goodness, this has been awesome. This conversation has been great. But I'm going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk to Vickie about how the challenges of starting her own business.
Woohoo!
1, 2, 1, 2. And I say this is Ty Controller, and I'm here to talk about DipSquare. DipSquare is an online shop that specializes in unique graphic t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, and other apparel. They also offer services like personalized mugs and shoes. Did I just say shoes? Yeah, you can get sneakers with your picture on them at DipSquare. They also have tote bags and other items. Right now, you can save on t-shirts every day by using the discount code I Love Tees. That's I Love TEEZ. You get 14% off because every day is Valentine's Day at DipSquare. So check them out online at dipsquare.com. Dipsquare.com. I guess you know what time it is. Yeah, I know, because it's about that time for the Toni G. Campbell podcast.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome back. We will now continue our conversation on to the challenges of starting your own business or even starting a new career after being an educator for 21 years. So my co-host today is Vickie Crockett, and she is going to first tell us about her business.
Well, I'm excited to be able to share what we've done thus far. So the name of the company is Teach Educational Consulting. TEACH is an acronym, and it represents the 5 outcomes that we implement through our curriculum. First, to transform education, then to empower students and teachers, advance learning through progressive programs, create effective curriculum, and then to heighten success for all students as we move into the 21st century and as they transition into adulthood. And the process that we use to accomplish that is a blended individualized curriculum. And essentially what it does is take the standard requirements for the Georgia DOE or for any other Department of Education, because this is a format that can lay over any state requirements. And it implements the instruction through a deeper understanding of the students' social and emotional learning needs. Because what we have learned through recent research over the last 10 to 15 years is that the students of the 21st century are not the students of the previous century. So those of us who were educated in the late 80s, the early 90s, late 90s even, the students that are showing up in our classrooms today don't look like that. They never will again. We need to stop hoping and praying that they will. I mean, society changes. The citizens of those societies change accordingly. And there have just been some, I don't want to say irreparable because that makes it seem like it's broken, but there have been some irreversible changes in our global structure that are here to stay. And we need to be able to make changes accordingly so that we can still meet the needs of the students that we now instruct. And that is the vision and the mission of Teach Educational Consulting.
Now, with your consulting business, are you gearing most of your expertise to teachers and administrators or to parents and students?
Well, this is the thing. Because we know that it takes all individuals in order to create a successful learning environment, there are tiers of the curriculum that are designed for all of those demographics. So we have a training module for administrators and teachers. There is an informational module for parents to offer them support because school looks different to parents. Most of those that we're listening to right now, you spoke about our generation. So when you think about the children of the late 60s, the 70s, the 80s, school doesn't even look the same. Math has changed so many times. I sometimes wonder just when did 2 times 2 stop being 4 without 16 different steps in between? Things are changing.
Right? Like,
so I need to help parents. Exactly. So there is a part of our curriculum that is designed for parents because we know it is overwhelming. And then there is a final portion that is designed specifically for the students because the needs of the 21st century focus specifically on things such as critical thinking, being a problem solver, being creative and innovative. And those are all self-directed characteristics. Students have to learn how to develop those character traits and then bring them to school so that school can have a greater meaning. So we're actually working to serve in every demographic because we believe it takes everyone to make a successful learning community.
Now, wow. My question next is, how do you feel about them taking cursive out of school? Because I have a big issue with that. I mean, I know there are electronic contracts and things like that, but you still need to know how to write your name, people. I'm just saying. And it really touched on a nerve of mine because I have another girlfriend who's a college professor up in the north. And they had actually asked her when she reviews her student papers not to write the responses in cursive because the students couldn't read it.
And I teach high school, and that has been not necessarily a spoken expectation for the school where I offer support now, but it has kind of been an underlying conversation that pops up in different pockets because at the high school level, the students have learned to a certain extent to advocate for themselves. And so they will come and they will say to you, will you please tell me what these notes say? I cannot read cursive. I will say, because I have not done extensive work on the elementary level, which is usually where those skills are taught, I will say this. We still live currently in a reality where documentation, official documentation, frequently still requires a written signature. A signature, by definition, is what we traditionally think of as cursive. Now, people have been accepting print because it wouldn't make sense for you to refuse to do so for the purposes of business. If you're trying to negotiate a deal and print is what you have, then print is what you work with. For me, the bigger concern is not cursive as a standalone practice. The bigger concern for me is the level of persistence that we seem to be missing or losing when we make things so simple that it requires very little effort on the part of the student to acquire the skill. This is a trend that truly concerns me because we see this pattern happening in a lot of situations. We get a lot of pushback because something is considered to be, quote unquote, too difficult. And then God forbid that it shows up on a test report somewhere because then all the alarms go off. And then the expectation is, what can we do to make it more, we say accessible, but the euphemism often means easier. And that becomes the concern. The concern becomes when we alter learning simply for the sake of ease. We have to stop that. We cannot do that and then still expect education in our country to remain cutting edge. And we're seeing it. If you look at global test scores and you compare American students in general with students in so many other countries that don't have the same financial resources our country has, we are slipping further and further behind. And some of that is connected to this tendency to try to make things easier. Life is not easy. And if we set them up with that expectation, then in my perspective, we are doing them a massive disservice, and life is going to beat them to death. We cannot do it.
Yes. And then, I mean, how are they going to get through middle school, high school? Are we going to make college easier now, too? Because if you make college easier, then what's the point of even going? You know, if college becomes the equivalent of what our high school used to be, it just makes it harder for even people to find quality people for jobs. You know what I'm saying?
And when we have these types of vertical conversations, when elementary teachers speak to middle school teachers, all the way up to high school teachers speaking with college recruiters, this is a reoccurring concern because there are so many colleges and universities now who are having to offer their freshmen remediation courses before they're even prepared to start the standard college curriculum because we have fallen into this trend. So believe me, they are having these conversations on the collegiate level.
We will have to do better, people, because like I said, I never knew that cursive is the new pig Latin. And, just the fact that, kids can't just go straight into college anymore unless they have like AP classes in high school. AP classes now are just our general classes that we had back in the day. So tell people how they can become one of your clients.
Well, one of the things that we want to be able to do, as I mentioned, is to serve on that multi-tier level. And so one of the things that we do is offer small standalone packages so that we can truly gauge what your school needs. We don't believe that one size fits all. So we take some time to find out what the students and the parents and the school truly need in terms of academic support. So we have 2-day training professional development sessions. During those sessions, it's an opportunity for us to collect data and to speak with the clients about the ultimate needs and outcomes that they desire for their school. And then we start to talk to them about what those training programs need to look like and how frequently they need us to come to offer that academic support. And so they can contact us through email, and I'll provide that information for you so that you can share it with your listeners because we want them to be able to reach us. And we also have our online service where they can go and learn more about our structure and our services and our products. And so contacting us either through email or through our website is going to be a great way to start that conversation so that we can look at how to address the individual needs of specific learning environments so that they can maximize learning for their students, because no student is the same, no school is the same, no staff is the same. And that's one of the things that we try to focus on, or that we do focus on in our support system, is that we're not trying to sell you something or provide something that we just give to everyone and poof, go make it work. I've been in PD sessions where that has been the expectations, but this is a partnership and we are walking it out with our clients every day to make sure that they're able to achieve the outcomes that they desire. And that's on a school level. But remember also, if you have a young person who is transitioning into middle school or high school and you are seeing things that look like Scandinavian to you and you don't speak Scandinavian, we work directly with parents as well. And we can also provide teen leadership programming. This is usually distributed through some of our youth partners like the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club within strategic areas. And the teen leadership program provides opportunities for you to serve in your community and also to look at what life has to offer on a global footing. So I've had the chance to take my students to England. We've been to France. We've done 2 trips to Italy, Greece. So we had a service project in Guatemala. So I want students to understand that the world is theirs right now. And what they choose to make of it is completely up to them.
That is amazing. And I absolutely love your passion. And I pray that you continue, because you have an awesome aura about yourself, and you also love the babies. I know this for a fact. You love the babies and you want them to be educated, which is so important because we need educated individuals out here.
Please, we must.
So I would like to say thank you so much to Vickie Crockett for co-hosting with me today. This was awesome, and I'm sure I'll be able to coax her to joining me again to co-host another show.
I would love to.
Oh, awesome. I see we got a commitment already. And at this moment, I'm going to take my last commercial break, and I'll be right back.
1, 2, 1, 2, and I say this is Ty Controller, and I'm here to talk about Dip Square. Dip Square is an online shop that specializes in unique graphic t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, and other apparel. They also offer services like personalized mugs and shoes. Did I just say shoes? Yeah, you can get sneakers with your picture on them at Dip Square. They also have tote bags and other items. Right now, you can save on t-shirts every day by using the discount code I Love Tees. That's I Love TEEZ. You get 14% off because every day is Valentine's Day at Dip Square. So check them out online at dipsquare.com. Dipsquare.com. I guess you know what time it is. Yeah, I know, because it's about that time for the Toni G. Campbell podcast.
It's time to wrap things up, and I would like to thank you all for listening to Conversations with Toni on Toni G. Campbell, the podcast. Don't forget to check our archive shows on ToniGCampbell.com, where you can also see our show notes for today's episode and all other episodes. Don't forget to leave me a comment, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, or tell a friend about Conversations with Toni. Rate and review the podcast. Remember to be kind, be useful, and be fearless. Y'all go out there and have an amazing, great day.